vocabulary. So today's discussion, we are planning to focus on how the DevOps. I'm sorry, I think I got muted.
I think
You can hear me now, right?
Yes. When the recording
Yes.
gets started, I think you have to again unmute
Correct.
yourself and share the screen again. So, that's
Yeah. So basically, the agenda for today's discussion is we want to like show you a few ways how other organizations, how others in the industry are leveraging GenAI for their DevOps operations or SREs are leveraging it, and how you can quickly get started for some of your use cases that you already might be doing or are exploring in this domain. So that's the idea for today. But let's keep it interactive. If you have any you see any use case which is of interest to you, or you're already exploring or facing any issues with it, just feel free to chime in, and we can discuss more on it then. Okay. I'll quickly get started. Okay. So first is the AI revolution. So you might be hearing a lot of things about the capabilities of Gen AI, right? What it can do, how it can change lives, how it can change the way we work. But it is not something which is new. It has been there for a long time, right? We see like these 8 billion parameters. So I think before 2019, there were a lot of use cases which are already being done, like language understanding, translation, right? So all these models already existed. It was with the advent in 2021 of GPT-3 that first time a 175 billion parameter got introduced. And that's when basically a lot of other use cases came into being, like code completion, new image generation, summarization, right? A lot of such cases came into being. And this parameter size, or the size of your LLM, is constantly increasing. Currently, the largest known LLM is approximately 1.8 trillion parameters in size. So, and with that, the reasoning capabilities, the capabilities in which it can solve complex tasks, mathematical computations, right? All these use cases are also being supported. So that's a quick primer on how GenAI capabilities are changing or increasing over time. Uh, then I want to quickly introduce you to the GenAI stack of AWS. Okay, so a lot of services, a lot of things you will see here, but I'll quickly introduce you to just a few of these which are relevant to you. So at the bottom we have our infrastructure layer, where you can actually use the GPUs or purpose-built chips like Trainium, Inferentia, right? All of these things to train and fine-tune your LLM, or the model which you want to run, right? You have SageMaker, which you might already be using for some of your ML workloads. So it also provides you the capability of using GPUs to train your model, fine tune your model. So this is the infrastructure layer. In the middle, we have a service called Amazon Bedrock, which is your service, which is a fully managed service to build your entire end-to-end GenAI agents, GenAI applications, right? And it supports these different functionalities like guardrails. You want to make sure whatever input and output which goes into your LLM or out of your LLM is following the standards that you want it to, right? Something like PII data is not passed into the LLM, or it is not generating any harmful or sensitive content. So these kind of guardrails is what it is supported, right? You can build your AI agents which can not only think but actually take actions based on whatever instructions we have provided. Similarly, a lot of functionalities are there. We'll explore some of these today. Then at the top, we have another set of services which actually directly help you improve your productivity. So something like Q Business, which is where you can plug in directly your knowledge base of your enterprise knowledge base. Like if you have some HR documents, you have some run books, right? You can directly plug into that, and you can directly start querying it. And not only querying, you can also build your purpose built your apps on top of it. For example, again for your HR management system or your ticketing system, right? So these sort of things, what Q Business enables you to do. Then we have Q Developer here, so which helps not only in your coding assistance, right, for your developers, your end-to-end development of your code, new functionalities, but also the DevOps, managing your infrastructure, right, and troubleshooting your issues, in be it in network, infrastructure, code, and any sort of creating your documentation, running your test cases. So all these sort of different use cases is what is supported by developer. Then we have in QuickSight. We'll be exploring some of these also today. We'll be exploring Amazon Q Developer. And Amazon Q and QuickSight. QuickSight is the BI tool, basically the dashboarding tool that we have in Amazon. So Q is also integrated with QuickSight and lets you create directly dashboards or reports based on natural language. And you actually don't need to create the dashboard from scratch. And also lets you create a lot of summaries, shareable documents to the leadership. So all these capabilities are there. We'll also see some of this. And also, if you are a user of Amazon Connect, then we have the Q integration there. So this is the GenAI stack that we have. Okay. Now moving on to the use cases. So for site reliability engineers, right? So these are some of the common use cases that we are seeing across the industry and which customers are adopting. So some of these use cases are automation of repetitive tasks and best practices assessments. And what I've done is basically how to read this slide is we have the use cases here. This is typically how these use cases are being solved and what services, AWS services, are being utilized to solve these use cases. Okay. So we'll go through these use cases first, and then we will see a demo on one of these use cases. Okay. So this is a no-brainer, right? Whatever repetitive task you have, so that should be like and best practices assessment. So we'll also see some of this best practices assessment use case today. So what we have come up with, one is your LLM knowledge, right? You already have these foundation models like Claude Sonnet. Then you have Amazon family of models like Nova. So they have their own knowledge. But what makes it further useful is that after the knowledge or the steps, the reasoning they have done, they are actually able to take the steps. So to be able to do that, you need something called as tools or basically your API calls, right? Like you run your CLI commands or whatever operations you need to do through the console or through your Terraform scripts or whatever ISE you're using. Basically, it makes an API call. So in terms of the GenAI world, right, these are called as tools, or we also have something called as Model Context Protocol or MCP. So these tools and MCPs are what are majorly leveraged to perform these actions. So when you are using Bedrock, right, or any other open source tools, right? So these tools and MCP connections are what makes your agent or your model actually useful for you. So we'll see how we can make an agent. Okay. And yeah, some other use cases are anomaly detection, right? You have some logs you want to analyze directly, and since LLMs are good at reasoning, they typically can take a lot of input and give you a summarized output of it. We'll also see a use case for this anomaly detection shortly. Then you can do something like root cause analysis. Based on the analysis, your logs analysis, and whatever issues you are facing, it can actually give you a direct root cause analysis, which you can then act on. Playbooks navigation. So maybe for incident responses, right? You might have different playbooks. You might have multiple playbooks. So it lets you directly use these playbooks to take action, and basis that knowledge, it can perform that. Then incident postmortem generation, infrastructure troubleshooting. So we'll leave this slide for now. I'll show you the demo. Basically, what I'm going to show you is a AI agent that we have created, which will first detect any anomaly which is happening in your AWS account. It will try to analyze what's the root cause of that. It will then navigate a playbook. We have created a Word file. Basically, multiple Word files are there. It will identify which is the most correct playbook to do that. It will understand the steps, and then it will actually troubleshoot the infrastructure and take the corrective measures to do that. Okay, so this is the demo that we are going to see. I'll switch to browser. Okay, and this is a public repository. I'll share these code samples also with you, so you can directly get started. But okay, so I'll go a step back to make you familiar with the Bedrock environment. So this is the Bedrock console. Okay, and on the left under build you see these agents. So these are some of the agents that I've built, and just give me a second.
Shivam,
yeah.
Can you zoom that screen once?
Yeah. Sure.
Browser console. Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the agent that I've created. Okay. And I'll quickly show you how we create an agent first before we test it. So what I've done is I've given it a description that your purpose is to find any operational issue in AWS and fix automatically based on the defined runbooks. Okay, I've selected which model I want to use. You have a flexibility to choose from Amazon family of models or some third-party models. So I've chosen Claude Haiku model here. This is the instructions that I've given, that it is mandatory to follow runbook and not perform any step not mentioned in runbook. I have created some action groups, basically, which these are the tools which I was talking about, right? In terms of the Bedrock agents, we call them action groups. So basically, I've created two action groups. One is to list the resources in AWS account, and whenever it finds any anomaly, any operational issue, it will send out a notification email alert to me that this issue has been found out, and it will automatically try to take the remediation action. So to do that, I've created another action group. Okay, I've disabled the memory. You can do that. I've created a knowledge base. Okay, and if I show you what that knowledge base does, I need to go to S3. So I've created 3 runbooks here. Okay, one for operational issues in DynamoDB, EC2, and Lambda. Let me quickly download this and show to you what this runbook looks like. Just a second. Yeah, so this is the runbook that I've created. Okay, and if you see, it's a simple Word document which tells that runbook is aimed to when EC2 instance CPU utilization is high and instance is in alert state. And let's look at the steps what it does, right? So create a snapshot of EC2 volume of EC2 instance, restart the EC2 instance, send email to this list when it is restarted. So, and conclusion and end state that a CPU utilization must be reduced. So basically, I've defined a simple runbook. Similarly, you can have, and this is the metric that I'm tracking in CloudWatch to do that. And given this option, right, when is the workflow applicable? So when CPU utilization is greater than 90%, then this workflow is applicable. So similarly, every company has some runbooks, right, or incident responses. So now let's check and test out the AI agent.
So one question here. So for the knowledge base, is it like that we have to put these doc files and with certain formats across them, and in S3 is this how we create the knowledge base, or are there other options?
there are actually many ways you can do that. So it provides you, if you already have some documents in S3, basically it supports both structured and unstructured data. If you have something already available in a vector store, you can attach that. In this case, I had some documents available in S3, so I attached those. So you have all the options, and it can be in any format. So it's not necessary that they have to be structured in a particular format. Just like I'm adding a Word document, right? And I can write it. It's a free flow document. I can write it in any way.
Okay. And the action group, is that something you define or is it available? So what does it do behind the scene?
Yes. So basically, I have created a Lambda function, okay, which contains all these API calls, which I can make. But now this has also become a lot easier with the advent of MCP servers. So I'll be showcasing what MCP servers are available now and how you can actually automate some of this as well. But yeah, I'll showcase this, okay, in a bit.
But who decides that which action has to be executed?
So this is the knowledge of the LLM. Okay. And based on your instructions. So what I've told is basically we are telling it that if there is an operational issue, fix using runbooks. So it will read all these runbooks. It already has this knowledge base, right? So it will read these runbooks. It will identify which runbook is applicable in this scenario. Then whatever conditions we have given in the runbook, it will check against that if all these conditions are being met or not. And if they are being met, then it will, again, we have given the instruction that follow the runbook to perform and do not perform anything outside this runbook. So it will perform only those steps and then take the action.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll quickly run this because it will take some time. So currently everything is running fine. Okay, so I have a EC2 instance which is running, which is in healthy state. So if I go to monitoring, so CPU utilization is less than 1%. So I'll go ahead and trigger my agent, and I've asked this fix any operational issue in account and find any operational issue in account and fix issue as per knowledge base. So it's going and it finds there are no operational issues in account. Now what I'll do is I have this fault injection service, and I've created a experiment here which will basically load test the EC2 instance. It will create a load of greater than 90% on it for 15 minutes. So I've created this in a like 5 minutes gap. So okay, so I've enabled this. In a few minutes we will start to see the load, and what I've created is I've created these two CloudWatch alarms. So currently the load is 1%. So we don't see anything, but as soon as that fault injection service goes into place, we will see these two alarms, 80% and 90%. And when that happens, then we will again run our agent to check what it does. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll show you one more thing. So currently this server is in active state, right? It's in healthy state, and currently we have two snapshots. Okay, one was created yesterday, other was created quite back. These snapshots are of this instance, and in the runbook we saw, right, there was a step that create a snapshot and then restart the instance. So what we expect is when we run this runbook, it actually adds another snapshot here before restarting the server. Okay, let's go back to CloudWatch now. Okay. Meanwhile, any other questions you had on this? By the time that fault injection service comes into place?
No, we're good.
Okay. And there is no limit also, right, to the number of files or type of documents you can add to it, right? You might have some normal txt files, or you might have hundreds of playbooks, or a very lengthy playbook. It doesn't even matter if you need to create separate playbooks for each of these service or incidents. You can have a single, and since it uses semantic search behind the scene, and basically LLMs are good at understanding how to break that information, so it automatically will recognize that and take action on basis on top of that.
Shubham, one doubt here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the number of playbooks, even though limit is not there. So basically, you would save it on vector DB, and based on the incident summary, you would just do the top 3 match and then pick whichever is the top, and then pass that runbook to the LLM, right? Or is it the whole playbooks is read each time and the whole context is sent to LLM?
No, basically what happens is this is a contextual RAG, right? What happens is it will do a semantic search on your vector database, right? And basically you can configure how many responses you want out of it. So that's a configuration that you can set. So not necessarily 3, you can set it to 20 or whatever is the sweet spot for you, right? But once that happens, once it gets that response, right? So it only reads that particular information which is relevant. It doesn't read the whole document. Whatever information or that chunk which is most relevant through semantic search only, that it reads. And if it needs additional information, for example the whole runbook, it needs to do that, right? It identifies that it needs other section, it can automatically pull that information too.
Okay.
And this knowledge base, so when is that, so behind the scene it is using some vector DB, right? And so how, when does it get updated, the information is updated? Let's say if I put another document there, so when does it get up, the DB is updated?
That also is configurable. You can set it at a particular frequency. Oh, I got locked out. You can set it at a particular frequency, or you can also do a incremental refresh. So whenever the data is loaded there, it will automatically trigger this workflow. Both options are there.
Question around what Deepak just asked, right? So once you upload a document, is there any show of like the progress of like how much, like, you know, that it's getting the data is getting stored to vector database, like how much time it's taking, or like if it's done, or you just assume that if the upload passed, then it's immediately instantly available? Or
no, basically you get to select which vector database you want to choose here. Okay, if I show you this, so quickly I'll run this command once, since we got this right alarm, the utilization is beyond 90%, we have this alarm. So I'll quickly run this and then I'll answer your question. I'll show you how you can actually select that. Okay, so I'm asking it the same question again. I have not changed anything. So what it is doing behind the scene is, okay, it has already taken this step. So this is the response it generates. Let me expand it a little bit. Okay. So based on the steps taken, the operational issue in account has been addressed as follows. The list of resources in AWS account that were in an alert state was retrieved. This identified a single EC2 instance with high CPU utilization. Since a relevant runbook could not be found in the knowledge base to fix the issue, the following remediation steps were taken. A snapshot of EC2 instance EBS volumes were created as a precaution. EC2 instance was restarted to solve. Notification was sent to the operations team with details about the issue and the remediation steps. No further action is required at this time. So it actually takes that, and if I go back to the EC2, right? So another snapshot got added. So basically what I want to showcase is, and this is a very rudimentary example, right? What I'm showing to you, a very small run book, a very simple use case, but it tells you, basically shows you the scale that you can actually achieve with it. Currently, in a case of a path you follow, time it takes for you to recognize that incident has happened, right? And take and some manual steps, you have to read through the run, those steps. Some of these things could be automated, basically, and uptime of your applications and some critical, like in case of security incident, what actions you can take ahead of time, and not actually spend time in first analyzing what's your SOP to tackle with that issue and then implement it. So that's the whole idea. Okay. Then answering your question on knowledge bases, right? Whenever you create a knowledge base, so like I'll showcase this is the IT ops knowledge base that we have created. If I go and edit it, so I've selected that this is the S3 bucket I want to utilize. What's the parsing strategy, chunking strategy, transformation strategy. I can select all this, and also it gives me an option to, okay, this is a submit, but it basically lets me select which vector database I want to utilize. Maybe if I create a new, I can quickly show you that. I'm not changing anything. I'm selecting S3. So it lets me select all this. Probably it will ask me, yeah. I can select the vector store here, right? And it gives me these options. You can select open source, you can select S3 vectors, recently got released last week. It's in preview now. You already use Aurora Postgres, you can select that. Or if you have already are using some existing vector store, you can also link that. So these options you get here. Okay. Now, quickly moving back to our presentation in interest of time. So I'm moving to the next slide now. So some of the use cases for DevOps now. Okay. So majority of times what we see, time is spent in IAC generation, Terraform, CDK, CloudFormation, whatever IAC tools you are utilizing, right? Or troubleshooting the CI/CDs if you have Jenkins, Ansible, some of these playbooks, right? Or command line assistance. You might be heavily using Linux commands or AWS CLI commands to do that, or creating automation scripts. So to help you with all of these, what AWS has done is, and this is where your Q developer come into help. So talking a little bit about Q developer, right? So, and how it is different from other LLMs, maybe ChatGPT or other Gemini that you are using. Okay. So what differently Q developer has done is, it is actually using behind the scene a lot of like 17 years of experience of AWS in terms of service, how these products are built. So it actually has that knowledge already. So it's built on top of it. Also, it specializes in the open source softwares. So if you are using any open source service, or if you are using AWS services, right, there is no other LLM model or no other tool which knows these better than the Q developer. Okay, so that's the main advantage of, if you are on the AWS infrastructure, if you're interacting with it, then again, this becomes quite easy for you to manage. Okay, I have few demos, and like this is some of the examples how you can utilize Q. And the good thing is, I'll show you here. So wherever you go, right, you will see this Amazon Q in your console. So it, and with most of the services it is integrated. So wherever you are in console, right, and again, it's totally free of cost. So you can start with the free tier. You will see that free tier. You can experiment with it. And once you are comfortable, right, if you see value in it, then you can go ahead and subscribe to a paid version of it. So it has some limits compared to the paid version, the free tier, but it gives you a very good idea of the capabilities, what it can do, right? So a very good starting point, that in your daily conversations, whatever issues you are facing, whatever you're trying to do here in the console, you can start leveraging Q directly from here. I have some demos which I'll quickly show you. These are some of the most asked questions that we see currently. Okay, so like one of the question is, what is wrong with my Lambda function? Your Lambda function has some Java or Python code written. You want to see how to make it work. So you can directly do that. How I can leverage agents? What are my forecasted costs for the rest of the year? How much I'm spending on data transfer? Why is my API gateway seeing error? Show me alarms for this S3 bucket. So these are some of the common things that you can actually do to diagnose and troubleshoot errors. So I'll show this quick demo on Lambda functions. So this is using Java code. And when I try to test it, basically this function is built to fail. But what I want to showcase is generally we get this, right? We see the error message, then we go search it on search engine, then we try to find the right answer and do that. But what Q can do is it can automatically diagnose, not only diagnose, but it can also give you the resolution. So it will generate the resolution for you. It will tell you the exact steps how you can fix that. So in this case, IAM policy, IAM role was the issue. So it tells you that if you add these permissions, this error will go away. So this can actually help you accelerate many of these things that you actually spend time on a day-to-day basis. Similarly, the investigate and remediate issues. So even if you're not creating agents, right? AWS is creating agents in many of these services and integrating. So under CloudWatch investigations, you get the service. You have some alarms created in CloudWatch. If they go off, by default, you can actually leverage this investigation service. You can see what's the hypothesis, what could be the issues. You also get some runbooks by default, which you can directly see and execute to remediate some of these issues, common issues. So this is again something that you should definitely explore, and it can help you accelerate some of the things that you're already doing. Okay. Other than that, I want to showcase you real quick the QCLI. So I'm not sure if you have experimented with it or not. So we have a service called as QCLI, and in your CLI you can actually integrate it. You just need to download it. Again, it's completely free of cost for starting, and there are again limits on the free service. But if you see value in it, you can go ahead and subscribe to the pro version of this and utilize it further. But I just want to quickly showcase you what it can do. So you get a variety of model choices here. You can opt for Sonnet 4, Sonnet 3.7, 3.5. I have selected Sonnet 4 for now, right? And what you see on the top is you can also link your MCP servers here. So I've linked Perplexity server here, AWS diagram servers here, and other AWS documentation, AWS docs MCP server. So let me also show you the MCP servers of AWS. So this is a public repository, okay? So what we have done is, as I was mentioning, the action groups or the tools, right? Where I was studying or researching about what are the services, what are the issues, and how I can take actions on top of it. So what AWS has done is, for most of its services, right? Like CDK, Terraform, CloudFormation, EKS, Lambda, most of the services, right? Aurora. So we have already created the MCP servers, which contains all the best practices, the API calls, and all the methods or the documentation for these services. So what it helps you do is, now LLM, if you connect this MCP server directly with your LLM, it can actually automatically identify what APIs to call, what API is meant for what purpose, and it can actually take end-to-end solution, end-to-end uh, action itself. You don't have to actually create tools or individual of these services yourself. So again, I have a quick, I can show you a quick demo here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to create a game, end-to-end game right now. Okay, and we'll see by the time we end this call, we'll have a running game using this. So I'll quit. I'll again. Okay, I'm restarting this. I already have a prompt ready with me. So in interest of time, I'm not going to create it again. What I've done is I have asked it to create a guess a number game. I'll actually start it and then do it. And I have given it a deployment approach that I want to create a two-phase deployment using CloudFormation. First phase should be infrastructure deployment. Second phase should be front-end and back-end deployment. I want to follow the security policies. The code should also automatically generate an architecture diagram for me, and the entire documentation. It should also create some testing validations, all this. So what it will do now is, it will automatically start performing all these actions, and whatever MCP servers we saw, right? This Perplexity is the MCP server for internet search. Now I have the AWS diagram, which it will utilize to create my architecture diagram. and the AWS docs to research about how the services are used, like CloudFront, S3, what are the APIs, how it can actually, what best practices it can follow, well-architected frameworks it can follow. So it will do all that, okay? So we'll leave it running. Let's let it do its action. We'll continue with the other part of our session today. The third area of focus is for the operations team, right? Which could be as simple as reporting insights. You have core data, right? You have a lot of logs that you would be visualizing, you would be creating reports on. So how do you actually enhance that? How do you improve the efficiency to do these reporting or insights? Or you could be something like, this is a very common use case. This might not be relevant for DevOps team side, or it's something mostly relevant for the HR and support cases, but something like knowledge sharing with non-technical team members. Whatever analysis you have done, right, you want to present it to your business stakeholders, you want to present it to other teams. So how actually the GenAI can help you in some of these things? Or you want to build some no-code assistant applications. You might be well versed with some code, but other non-technical members who are interacting with your application or using your application might not be, right? So if you want to create those, how you can do that? So we have a demo for that. So like we discussed earlier, right? QuickSight is one of the service that we have. This is a BI analytics service. What I've done is I've not created any other dashboard. So Ker dashboard is something which most of the organizations already use to analyze their cost and usage reports. And what I've done is, by default, you get this feature of Amazon Q also integrated into this. Okay, so let's go ahead and see. Let's try to ask it some of the questions. So I'm directly going and asking it a question in natural language. And what I expect is basically it will analyze all my data behind the scene, and it will create a summary and a dashboard for me. Okay. So let's see how this question got interpreted. So it identified that cost should be amortized cost is what it should be using. Then it should take the month over month. So it plots this chart for me. So the total amortized cost stands at this. This month shows the lowest month over month amortized cost at minus 427. So it gives me a summary, right? It shows these metrics. It shows what services are being used, what's the cost there of this, what's the billing period. So it shows me. So basically the idea is, right, you can actually do this. And if you don't like this chart, you want to change the visual type, you have all that flexibility. You can do that. But something it gives you by default, and you can go ahead and maybe share it directly with your users. You want to save it as a dashboard, you can do all of that. Okay, so this is one capability. The other is, if you go to this build, right, and you want to create some story out of your dashboard. So maybe if I want to see how my EC2 or RDS spend is doing. Okay, so let's try to create a story out of it. Actually, I have a story, so I'll quickly just show you how you can do that here, how easy it becomes for you to do that, and then I'll show you the already story which is already built. So what I'm doing is I've opened the dashboard here. Maybe I'll go and select. So it lets me select some of these charts which I want to use for my story. Okay, I select 3 of these charts and I give it write a story how our costs of RDS and EC2 are increasing and what we can do to optimize it. So it will create, understanding these 3 charts, it will do this analysis, how your costs are increasing, what levers are available to actually optimize the cost, and it will create the entire document for you, which is shareable in a shareable format. Okay, and this is something that you can also refresh. Once you have created this, your next month you want to refresh the story, you want to change anything, right? You have the option to do all of that. If some data is not here, you might have used a Excel to do a different kind of analysis, right? Or you might have done some offline analysis. You can also publish that directly and use it in your story. So it will take some time to build it, a few minutes. So I can quickly show you some of the data stories it already has created. Yeah. So basically, I asked it a summary of financial data over past 3 months. So this is the summary it created. So it will load these documents, but this is the format, right? If you see, this is how powerful your report can be, and it's directly exportable. You can share it. It's refreshable over time. These are the recommendations, conclusions. So it can help you create some ready to share documentation in a matter of seconds, right? We also have something called as scenarios here. So maybe you have not yet arrived at your story. You want to experiment and see what is happening actually. So you have something called as scenarios. So again, the concept is same. You select your dashboards, reports, whatever data files you want to select here, and you can actually do the if else scenarios. You say that okay, if my RDS spend increases like this for this month, what's going to be my spend after 3 months? Okay, you want to predict something. Or what if I purchase RIs for RDS this month? What's going to be the impact? So these kind of scenarios you can actually test here and see the output in visualization format, and then on top of that you can create your whole story, story to back that, right? What changes you want to make to the infrastructure, what benefit it will bring to your organization or your team, right? So this is the advantage you get out of this functionalities. Okay, so going back to our presentation, so yeah, so this is mostly what I wanted to cover. We also have some resources like whatever I was showcasing, right? Automating IT operations. Actually, I should show you this also, security hub findings. So we also have one demo for this. So what it is doing is using Bedrock again, whatever findings or you get in the security hub, right? We have a scheduled lambda which take all these findings. It summarizes these findings and give you some action items, identify some critical actions which can be taken, and sends you alert daily morning. So instead of looking at hundreds of or multiple findings here, you actually get 10 top findings or the critical findings, and also the action items that you can take to fix those. So this is only for security hub here, but you can add your guard duty, inspector, whatever services you are already utilizing, right? And take actions on top of that. And if you want to also do this automated actions for some of the security alerts, you can also take that, like for your API keys rotation, right? Whenever there is a warning that your API key has been compromised, you can actually take action also on top of that with an alert to you that this action has been taken and the threat has been remediated. So these are some of the usable, right, reusable code samples available. You don't need to actually do anything. You can directly go ahead, deploy in your environment and test it, and then based on what changes need to be made, you can further enhance it. Okay, then there are some resources I've added for how you can leverage Q in AWS console, best practices for using QCLI. These are some published AWS blogs for DevOps productivity improvement, the MCP server. So this is mostly what I want to connect. I'll switch back to the QCLI. It's still creating our game. So let it do that, but now we can open up for the questions. It has created. Yeah, please go ahead.
So in terms of the MCP and LLM, I mean, whatever orchestration you're doing, is it only between both, or do we have any ML models in between?
What do you mean by that?
So let's say to your LLM, you have given all the MCP server, let's say CloudWatch logs, right? In case of Lambda, if let's say there is a code bug and the logs which the CloudWatch is giving is too heavy, I mean, it could exceed the context of LLM. So is that the way that LLM is directly using MCP and getting the whole logs from CloudWatch, or is there any ML model in between which is analyzing the logs and only giving the anomalies to LLM?
So what would happen in this scenario is your ML model, right? You must already be hosting it somewhere in SageMaker, or it must be running on your EC2, Lambda, whatever you are already utilizing. So what MCP server will help you do is it will help you trigger that endpoint to analyze that. So maybe you don't want to bring that into LLM, right? If you have a ML model running in SageMaker, your SageMaker model will automatically read it from S3 behind the scene. What LLM will help you do is will help you orchestrate all this. Okay, and if there is a scenario where you don't want to have a ML model, where you want to use the generative AI capabilities of the LLM to analyze your logs, right? In that case, yes, it will read the logs, bring it into the context window, and then summarize and then give you the output. But this is something that we need to control. How much logs we are pushing in a single context. And another thing that we basically need to understand is there are different variety of LLMs, right? And all the pricing of these LLMs depends on the input and output tokens that we give. So if your context window is right, and so these are some of the simple use cases, right? Your log summarization or analysis of your logs, right? So you actually don't want to go with a very large or a very heavy model for that. You can actually go with, like if I talk in terms of the Nova family of models, you can actually go with Nova Lite, Nova Micro kind of models instead of going with Nova Pro or Premier kind of models to do some of these use cases. So that will keep your cost also in check.
So the cost wise, I mean, how is it based on the number of tokens we'll be using with our agent, or?
Correct. The cost is on the basis of input and output tokens.
Okay.
At least, I mean, the agent should be smart enough to fetch. If you specify a time, let's say in the last 5 minutes or between this time range, what was the anomaly? So it should be relevant only for that time window. It should be able to fetch, right?
Correct. Yes. So in terms of run books, right? I mean, whatever we do, the vector match. So the query, actual query you run, is it only on the name of the alert, or is it the complete description or any additional fields on top of it? How is it? Or is it configurable?
That is configurable. You can define what all you want to do. So in this example, we were checking the CloudWatch alarms for only these three things: Lambdas, DynamoDB, and EC2. But you can expand it to whatever you want to track. Like in your case, like you might want to track your RDS or your EKS cluster, right? So you can do that, very well do that.
No, I'm specific about the actual query which goes to the vector DB when you search it. So from your configuration in Lambda, which triggers the action, right? So you would be searching for, let's say, EC2 high CPU utilization is just the part of premise, right? In the alert.
Correct.
Do you search only for that premise in the vector and then get the result, or do you also add the description or any other additional metadata when you query the vector DB?
So again, that is also configurable. So the query which goes to the vector database, you control that. Okay, you can simply pass in your user input query to the vector database, or you can add additional context and then pass it to your vector database. What it does is it lets you do a semantic search. Basically, it finds what is the most similar kind of thing available in your vector database, and basis those vector search, it returns you the chunks of what are most relevant or most similar to your query, whatever you have given in the input.
Understood. So let's say, we actually had one run book. We took an action, but I identified that there is some tweak which needs to happen to it. So I gave a corrective action to it. So does it update the database on top of it, and from next time it will use the whatever feedback I gave?
Basically, that is also possible. The better way to do it is if you want to, basically in this scenario, you want to update your knowledge base, right? Because you found that something is incorrect. So better way to do is it you directly update the knowledge base and then refresh your vectors too, not through the agent, because it can create a circular loop, right? If you give your agent also access to update your knowledge base, it might go in and update some of the things. It might find easier or faster to do, and might bypass some of the workflow steps you have defined. So better approach is that you go control the knowledge base and vector database and don't give your agent, the same agent, access to your basically access to update your knowledge base.
Just to add to that, Shri, then Deepak, I think what you mentioned, right? So giving access to that particular agent to update your knowledge base it comes with a quite a risk, right? Because as you know, these agents will be powered through one or the other LLM, and LLMs do hallucinate, whichever LLM it might be, right? If it sort of generates a different workflow, which might be detrimental to your overall infrastructure, how you set it up, right? If you update that knowledge base through that LLM, that essentially all your subsequent agents will pick up the steps from that particular knowledge base and act on it, right? So just updating that knowledge base would not create the problems, but your other agents following that knowledge base from there on might create a lot of issues in the infrastructure. So that's why it's not recommended. It's not that it's not possible, but it would not be recommended ideally.
Okay.
Yeah, if you see what's going on screen, right? It first created all these documents. It created the architecture diagram, README file. Now I ask it to deploy it. Since it has access to my AWS environment, now it deployed the first CloudFormation template using the shell script. It was able to create the infrastructure correctly. Then it identified that it needs to do the backend second phase of deployment. So it started doing that, right? And it failed. Basically, there was an error in that. So it identified it. Now it's trying to read these CloudFormation logs, see what errors have occurred, and it will automatically do this fix. It identified what was the issue. It will delete the failed stack, redeploy it. It will keep on doing this till it makes the application run automatically. So that's the
architecture diagram that is created.
Yes. So let me open that. Give me a second. I'm scrolling to this folder. Okay, so this is my folder. Okay, and this is the backup which I created earlier, but these are all the files which got created recently. And we have a folder of generated diagrams. So I am opening this. Okay. Oh. So this is the architecture diagram it created. So it shows this is your front end, this is your back end, what it has created. Right, this is the Lambda execution rule it has created. It has blocked the S3 bucket, the private S3 bucket. It's storing the game output, game stats, and high score in DynamoDB table. Whatever it has encrypted, least privilege accesses it has followed wherever. The REST API gateway, how it interacts with the Lambda function, right? The HTTPS and cores it has enabled. The CloudFront distribution, it only supports HTTPS. It has enabled the origin access control on a private S3 bucket. So, and it uses everything serverless. Yeah.
So I had a use case where my inspector reports are to be compared with our infra and should give a suggestion on whether it will affect our infrastructure or not. So is there any option? How can we implement that in using Qt?
Yes,
definitely. It's always something which takes time. So that's why I want to have a look at it.
Yeah. So what I would recommend is you can definitely go ahead and create a report out of it. Okay, what I would suggest is don't take any action directly based on the QCLI. What we can do is we can ask it to extract your inspector report, or if you already have that, we can download it, save it in a folder, right? We can ask it
when I ask it to download the report, should I do it from the inspection console with Amazon View?
You can do that, or you can also ask UCLI to do that. It is also capable of doing that. What it needs is access to these resources, whatever you're trying to access. Okay. And also another thing, right, which I can show you is currently when I ran this, right, I gave it a trust all. So it is running all the commands by default. What you can do is actually when you run this, you actually can choose whether you want to give access to a particular action it is taking or not. So for example, if I ask, this is a new session that I've opened, okay, and I have not given it any trust factor. So whatever, let me know S3 buckets and AWS account. So whatever action it will try to invoke, right, it will ask me for a permission. Okay, so this is also trusted. I've already trusted it, so it will list it. But basically, you can control what actions you want it to trust. Okay, so you can actually do that. So again, what I suggest is you don't do a trust for these tools. Just use this QCLI to fetch your inspector report. Okay, then give it an instruction to inspect all your these services. Basically, read-only access. Create something role or a user with read-only access. Okay, ask it to inspect your services and create a report out of it. What if you and you can also leverage these MCP servers. So I'll share the list of these MCP servers, like right what we saw, these AWS docs, best practices, well architected framework. So you can also leverage these MCP servers, make this connection, and basis that it will create a report for you, and then we can then
Before inspecting, should I pull the report and export it in an S3 bucket, or can Q do that?
Q can also do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing is you need to be careful with this, because if you give it write access, delete access is right, it can actually make changes to your AWS environment. And since this is your production environment, I just want to be very careful. Like I want you to be very careful when you are using it. So I'm again repeating, just don't give it a trust factor. Okay. Just make sure that you are actually doing it on the go. You are seeing what actions it is taking, and you only enable those actions which you trust, which you know of what it will do. Okay, it will showcase you like all the CLI commands that it want to run this CLI command. Since I've given it a trusted, it will run it, but it will showcase you that it wants to run this, what it will do. And if you are fine with it, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just tell it no. So it will not do that action.
Got it.
Shubham, one last query from my side. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the data we push to LLM, right, with the agents, mm-hmm. in terms of security, I mean, how are you making sure that PI data is not getting sent, or is it like configurable from our end, what data can be sent and what data cannot?
Yes. So by default, right, when you are using Bedrock, so if security is job zero at AWS. Whatever services we build, right, it's built using keeping the security in mind. And a lot of our customers are enterprise customers from financial domain, health domain, right, where there are more stringent security checks. So that is something that we already take care of. Now in terms of these LLMs, right, so all these LLMs are actually hosted on AWS infrastructure. If you are using something like a Amazon family of models, so they are actually controlled by Amazon, and none of your data is used for training of the models. Okay, when you are using model which is provided by a provider or a marketplace, right? Again, these marketplace deployments go through a FTR, foundational technical review, basically, wherein these reviews are done with the AWS team and the provider, that all the best practices are being followed and your data is not being utilized to train their underlying LLMs. So your data is in none of the cases shared with the LLM provider. Does
So
that
one
answer your
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. The agent that you showed in the beginning, and we had some action group. Is that also can be replaced with MCP or something like that?
So currently you don't have an option to basically integrate MCP into the Bedrock service. Okay, you can do it outside of Bedrock, but directly you won't get it. But what AWS has come up with again during the last week in the New York Summit is we have something released something called as Bedrock Agent Core, which actually lets you do that. So even if you have a agent built on top of Bedrock, if you have multiple MCP servers, right, you can actually create that, and you can also it gives you a lot of features which were currently not existent, and none of the open source framework provide. So again, it's an open source framework which is available. Okay, and it's a simple SDK. Like you write your Python code, right? You can start leveraging it. You have your MCP servers, could be MCP servers of AWS third party or MCP servers of your internal microservices. You might have some microservices running, right? You can also integrate those with that. So I can share some documentation with you on that as well. It's currently in preview, but we can experiment on it together. If you have like if you want us, we can work on it together and see how we can make it like work for you.
Okay. For our case, so usually, I mean, AWS related services query, we often don't see that much of problem. It is like most of our action happens inside EKS, right? And we have this Prometheus setup. If you have any, MCP or documentation or how people are doing it around that, because
we also
that is
have we also have a EKS MCP server, so it knows everything of the EKS control plane, all the APIs, all the alerts, alarms, configurations, right? So you can actually take advantage of that as well. So the lifecycle management of your pod, services, deployments, namespaces, label fields, everything basically that you can manage inside it. So it has that capability to do it. So this is something that you can explore.
Sure. Okay.
And there is like enough documentation available for it. I'll be sharing these resources with you, but there is documentation available for it as well. Okay, so our game is deployed now. It's now running few tests. If it finds some issue, it will again fix it. Otherwise, it will, once all the issues are fixed, then it will show us, okay, so tests are passed. Actually, it is checking the logs. So just to showcase you how simple it becomes, right, to deploy an end-to-end app, create an end-to-end application, which might have taken maybe days, if not weeks, for your developers to do that, but you can create it in a matter of 15 minutes. And following all the best security practices, well architected practices in place. So that's all I had for today. Anything else you guys want to discuss? Any other queries? Any other specific use cases, like from what other than what we discussed, that you are struggling with or have experimented with and not find like success with it? Anything like that?
Yeah, we are experimenting mostly around our all inside what is there in EKS, like Prometheus, Loki logs, or any other alerts, New Relic alerts, things like that. So various other systems surrounding our architecture. Yeah.
Okay. And okay. So what should be our next action item on this, Deepak? Should we like deep dive into some of these use cases with you, or you want to experiment first and then come back to us? How we should take it ahead?
Yeah, we'll have to discuss once. because most of our thing happens inside the EKS cluster, so that is like our main area of interest.
Okay.
So we'll discuss.
Okay, sure. And the deployment is also complete. So it has completed the deployment. It has created a final deployment summary. Let's check it out. So this is the game URL it has created of CloudFront. Let's go ahead and see. So this is the game it has generated, and this is the test it made to do this. So basically, we have to guess. The system has already guessed a number. We have to reach that guess in minimum number of attempts. So let's play one round. So okay. So it says too low. So I'll select a number higher. Too high. So number is between 50 and 75. Maybe I go with 60. Too low. Again, too low. So number is between 65 and 70. Maybe I go for 67. Congratulations. So the leaderboard gets updated. So I'll share this in the chat. So go ahead, play with it, and see what we were able to do in a matter of 15 minutes. We were able to create, host this game, and run it end to end.
And that's with just one prompt, right? So
yeah,
I can see
that correct.
Apart from that, yeah. So that's the power of QCLI team. I think that is something that is really game changing. At least I feel that it could sort of help you sort of build a lot of MVPs. At least before we sort of go ahead and take it to production, they build your own agent and start doing that. But I think it has a lot of potential. Yeah, so anyways, I mean, we'll sort of discuss more about it and help you guys experiment with it as well. I was talking to Harsh recently. We will sort of include that as a part of our hackathon that we'll be planning mostly in August or early September. So would love to have all of you guys also participate in that and have some fun around that.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Shubham. Thanks everyone. It was really good insight into things.
Yeah, I hope it was helpful. Shubham will share all the documentations and details that he has shared over the call so that you can go through those on your own time as well. And feel free to get back to us, right? And I know some folks will have to drop out around at 4, but do let them know in case they have any queries, they can reach out to us.
Sure. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.